Going here. Okay, so welcome to Confident Carnivore. Janice and Aaron here. Thank you for joining us. And today we have our good friend, Chris St. John. He is our neighbor at the
Hey,
Santa Cruz.
Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
So we know Chris because he's our neighbor at the Santa Cruz Harbor. And we brought him here today so he can tell us a little bit about his experience with the carnivore diet. And so welcome, Chris. Thank you for joining us. And
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
it's really great to see you. You look great. And we just wanted to start off by asking you, first of all, how long have you been carnivore? And how did you come to this way of eating?
All right. So I'm going to be coming up on 8 weeks this coming Monday. I'll be 8 weeks carnivore on Monday. So,
Nice.
yeah, feeling fantastic.
How's that 8 weeks been going for you?
It's been going great. So, as part of going into this transition, I found out about the diet, running into Aaron at the harbor just by luck. I mean, just pure luck. I think he was actually heading to buy ribeyes, and when I ran into him and wanted to rush out for the sale at Costco on ribeyes for $11 a pound, something along those lines, and just luck of the draw, and I just went in on kind of faith that, hey, try anything for 30 days and see what it can do, and it's completely changed my life. Just
and
so
what was it though
so
about? I mean, you saw something in me, I think, that was a little bit different, right? That kind of piqued your curiosity too. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and when somebody has that kind of passion describing the impact of something, when they have no financial interest in pushing the passion, it really, really makes an impact. When somebody's, trying to sell you a car and they tell you how amazing it is, there's a different, kind of take it with a grain of salt, like, yeah, okay, this car's awesome, but it's not the same. When somebody has no interest other than just sharing their experience, and you could see the passion in Aaron describing it's like, no, I mean, the thing that hit home with me was Aaron told me, I remember this clearly, and I've described this to other people, but he said that it changed his life so much that if the doctors told him you're going to die in 5 years staying on this diet path, he would have just stuck with it and just cares. I mean, that really kind of like set in as, this is for real, because that's a pretty major statement. And the way you said it, you weren't joking around. You were like, no.
Well, we also talked about that, between Janice and myself, we had tried just about everything out there, right? And so even if we were, faced with the fact that someone was going to tell us that this wasn't going to work, or that, it was going to eventually become unhealthy for us, that what else is there for us to do now?
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, we've explored everything, and this has given us like the best results, and we feel the best, and we're noticing all of these different things. And so I guess with that, like, that was some of the things that we talked about were, if you could talk about, and I think it resonated with you because I've had, I was in a plane crash, and I had real severe back problems from that. And, those kind of piqued your interest because you had some chronic things that you've been dealing with that you haven't really been experiencing any relief from. So could you just talk about some of those things a little bit?
Yeah, so I was pretty active with motocross bikes when I was younger, and so I ended up in some pretty bad accidents that really did long-term damage, more so than just the trauma at that point. Mm-hmm. So a lot of pretty major damage to my joints, my spine, things that started cropping up later, a decade or more after the fact.
And how old are you, Chris, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so my worst accident was when I was 17.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
how old are you now?
I'm 36.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So yeah, getting close to the 20-year point.
Yeah.
And so for quite a few years, I went through kind of a transition after the major trauma of kind of the battle back, we'll call it, of, getting almost kind of addicted to weightlifting and exercise on the comeback. And so I went down that path and kind of injured myself some more along the way, because I really, really got into weightlifting after being like almost paralyzed, and then coming back and having to go hard to be able to do the stuff I want to do. I mean, being big into snowboarding and mountain biking and all this stuff, and one of my legs wasn't working right, so I had to
Right.
go hard, and really I took that to the next level, and then injured shoulders along the way and all that kind of stuff. Probably did some spine damage on some of the heavy weightlifting as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, along my path, coming back from a bad accident, and then also I had a lot of stuff with internal damage in the accident, on top of um, you know, the orthopedic side of damage. I had my spleen explode. So they call it a shattered organ instead of a ruptured organ. So ruptured organ, the organ's still somewhat there, but it breaks open. Shattered organ means it literally like a stick of dynamite, like it's like 500 pieces of tissue kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I shattered the organ. And so what that meant is they had to cut out, basically, they took all my intestines out of my body. So they cut me open. I've got a pretty wild scar to show for it down the center of my stomach, and cut me open, pull all my intestines out on a table, and then go through them to pull pieces of shattered
And then
organ.
let me guess, they have to stuff it all back in, and then
Yeah.
that causes all kinds of problems.
Yeah, so you can imagine from a kind of digestive system standpoint,
Yeah.
and all the muscles involved. So in this case, they saw through your primary abdominal muscles all the way. So
Yeah.
which is really hard to come back from, almost
Right.
harder than some of the other broken bone type trauma. I'd say that was probably the longest term. And so ever since that happened, I've never felt right, from like a digestion, and I mean many years of like weird like phantom pains in my midsection, where like
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting like cut open again just randomly, and I mean crazy stuff, and never the same after it, to the point that going to specialists, getting colonoscopies to try and figure out what's going on. Sorry, feedback loop, and it muted me. So I've got a couple different monitors here, so I have to make sure I keep an eye on which one's giving me an error. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. And so all they could tell me is that it looked like probably my intestines were scarred from getting accidentally cut during that surgery. That I had like a kink section where it was like cut and didn't heal quite right. And so I've always had tons of issues with my digestion, and then of course all the other damage to my body with broken bones and metal hardware, and half my legs made out of titanium. I mean, it's like I got a whole bunch of metal in me, and so I've just been getting really kind of just worn down. I have a really strong positive attitude just most of the time, even before going on to carnivore. So I've spent the last, almost 2 decades mentally staying okay when I'm like ready to jump off a building with how I feel, kind of thing. And I mean, and that's really how I felt. Like, I mean, like waking up every day and being like, oh man, like this, I don't know how long I could do this for. I'm in so much nerve pain and digestive issues, and it's just a nightmare. It's a total nightmare. I'm 36 years old. Like,
no, I know. And that's what struck me in our conversation was that, here this guy is, he's 36 years old, and he's got all of these issues and clearly suffering. And that's when
Yeah.
we started talking about, well, try something for 30 days. And you were just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've got nothing to lose at this point. Right.
And nobody has ever even talked about my diet as being something that can help me. So
Yeah.
I've done everything you can think of on surgeries, epidural injections, pain medications, chiropractors, massage therapy, electrotherapy, acupuncture, like how long of a list can we go down of all the stuff that people try to do, conventional and somewhat unconventional, do an inversion table, all this stuff, and nothing has been able to fix it, right? And so I've ended up having multiple surgeries. I've already had 2 back surgeries, which I was at like borderline paralysis for both of those, like
Yeah.
losing control of my bladder, like I'm a 30-year-old and like I'm going to be paralyzed kind of thing. And so 2 back surgeries at Stanford. I've done multiple knee surgeries already. I'm looking at potential neck surgery, which is really, really sketchy around your spinal cord, with possibly like an advanced replacement of disc is what I was looking into, with a top neurosurgeon out of Stanford. I mean, I'm willing to do like anything to get my kind of get my life back on how active I want to be. So yeah, nothing had fixed me up until now, really. And so it's just been, I mean, earth shattering in such a short period of time to have so many of these issues on the pain, the digestive issues, just how well my mind functions. That's been such a noticeable impact on changing my diet, going down this carnivore path. And so that's why I'm excited to talk about it. And it's really been life changing. I have
No,
other people getting started on it now. So
Chris, before you start talking about the benefits of carnivore, didn't I hear something about something about hypertension or pre-diabetic or something to do? I thought I heard
Like high blood
high
pressure.
blood pressure, something.
all the above. All the
Okay.
above. So yeah, I have a number of issues that have stemmed both genetically and also from my organ loss. So the spleen is an interesting organ. They tell you, oh yeah, you'll be fine without. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some issues, but no big deal. You can function without it. But when you get into the nitty gritty of it, what happens is you don't have the ability to get rid of all of your old blood anymore. Is something that you don't really think about. And so I don't have the same kind of filtration of removing old red blood cells. So my blood actually will build up like too thick in red blood cells. So I have been doing for the last few years, I do regular blood donations is basically my oil change. Like an oil change on a car, I give blood to keep me from getting to the point of like, it's too thick and it's clotting up. And so they love it. It's lots of red blood cells. It's great for somebody. It helps somebody else, and it helps me. So
Yeah.
I've been doing that. I've been doing that for the last few years, and every time I almost black out doing it because I don't have an extra pint of blood like somebody who has a spleen. That's the other thing the spleen does. When you lose a pint of blood, your spleen gives a pint of blood to the system. So if you give a pint of blood without a spleen, it's quite the experience. It's kind of like
Wow.
almost like an out of body type experience on like feeling the blood come out of your body while they do it. So I got to go in with like, all right, I'm not going to black out. And this time I'm going to lay down and put my legs up and like my whole organized approach and how much water I drink before. It sucks. Totally sucks. But
That sounds terrible.
yeah, so as part of that, I've been, high blood sugar, cholesterol, high blood pressure, all this stuff that's kind of gone along with it.
Wow. Now, what were you eating before your 2 months on carnivore here? I'm just
Great.
curious.
Yeah, great question. So I actually have never been somebody to do all the different like kind of, I don't know if I'll call them fad diets, but like all the different, like true keto or paleo or any of this stuff. I really never have. I mean, I've always been, I eat meat, I eat vegetables, I eat bread, I eat tortillas, I eat rice, pasta. I mean, just really kind of just traditional Western food. I've never been big on sweets. So I have, I really haven't, I wasn't a junk food person before by any means. It was eating, whole foods, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, never really junk food with sugar, but my sugars were still too high, which was frustrating, right? So I'm not eating a bunch of candy, but oh, you're borderline diabetic.
Right.
So that's, yeah, I'm hoping after some of my reading on the diet that I'm going to improve those things with my blood sugar, and I'm excited about that.
Absolutely. So, okay, so we know what you were eating before, and you say you're 2 months in, right? So what have you been eating since you've been on carnivore?
Yeah, so I'd say the hardest part about carnivore is it's not as much variety of flavors. So that takes some getting used to, and I wasn't sure how that was going to go. So I'd say I'm probably still pretty diverse on carnivore, where I'm not doing like just straight ribeyes, right? So I do it'll be ribeyes, then New York steaks, then T-bones, then eggs. I still eat a ton of eggs, which we'll see over time whether I try for a while not doing eggs. I do eat a ton of bacon. I'm careful that I source, clean bacon that's raised with good feed and no sugar, no curing, try and get the best I can, because I read that, having the single stomach on pork, that they can transfer a lot of the bad stuff in their diet into their fat and then transfer to us, more so than a cow or sheep.
Mhm.
And so I've been doing some lamb to mix it up. Love the lamb. It's fantastic. Hamburgers, just straight burgers with high fat content, without lettuce or bun or anything, just straight burgers. That's another way I've mixed it up. What else have I done? Oh gosh, I really like the butter coffee. I do that every morning. That's we'll call it my breakfast. So I do 2 tablespoons of grass-fed butter and 2 scoops of organic beef collagen. That's my start the day.
And how are you feeling with that? I mean, how is that like the sustainability, and how are you feeling as your day progresses? I know we talked about this a little bit. And so if you could share, just that you're only eating at certain points in the day and not as much. And of course, there's, our whole thing is, yeah, there's a side benefit of losing some weight. And you and I had talked about that. But the other benefits that really start to show up, that sort of lend to our theme of confident carnivore, are all these other different facets that you don't normally associate with a diet or a dietary change or
Yeah,
shift.
I think the speed for any type of mental processing is significantly different, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've had some complaints that I'm just, too kind of exhausting for my business partner. So he's, it's like, yeah, I'm booking a bunch of new work, but it's kind of exhausting. It kind of just the pace we're going through it.
Well, it sounds
And
like even too, as you told me, there's some financial benefit that you've been experiencing as well, in terms of your contracts and stuff like that as a result of this diet, which is kind of crazy on some.
yeah. So we're probably going to double the size of the company this year. So 100% growth. So it's, we're really,
But what does that have to do with eating meat, do you think?
So I am, I guess, I'm significantly more aggressive in the sense of risk, appetite for risk, right? So,
Yeah.
and I have a customer telling me, oh yeah, this is like, the scariest part we've ever tried to source, and the rocket ship blows up if the part goes bad and this and that. And I'm like, okay, so we'll schedule your visit next Tuesday. We'll kick the thing off. And I mean, yeah, and okay, I'll build you a separate building to make that if you want me to do that. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I just like I don't know how to be worried anymore, I guess. I really don't. I just don't know how to be scared or worried. I just like I can't put my brain into a negative space like I could before. I think that's the best way to describe it. Like it's stuck into like a driving forward to get stuff done kind of a space, instead of like, oh man, let me overanalyze this. I mean, I compared, and I don't want to say anything bad about my dad, but I gave a talk about the comparison between somebody like Aaron and somebody like my dad. Okay. So this is interesting. Okay. And this part of this has to do with personality style. Like the type of personality probably is different as well.
I
I've done a
love
lot
your
of
dad. I'm just going to put that out there.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
your dad is awesome.
And as do I. But so my dad struggles with over analyzing a situation and then not being decisive.
Analysis paralysis, they call it, right?
Worse than just about anybody I know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he'll talk about maybe doing something for 5 years and you'll hear him keep talking about it. He'll go, I mean, literally, like whether it's like, oh, he's buying a different boat and he's going and he's putting deposits and traveling to see him doing this, never going to buy a different boat, right? I mean,
yeah,
just kind of like, let's do it or not do it. And so one of the things I am most passionate about in this world is hunting and fishing, right?
Yay.
So the outdoors, me versus the wild, putting my mind against the wild to get my own food, right? Yeah. And I did that, with tons of passion way before I even got into the carnivore thing. And so, but my dad isn't into that. So it's kind of like a reverse relationship, in the sense that like I'm trying to get my dad to go hunting for the first time with me, instead of like him raising me to go hunting, right? So let's put it this way. I mean, I have like a multi-million-dollar private duck club. Like I go do all these crazy like lodge setup, week-long elk hunting trips. I mean, all this stuff, right? Like tons of resources on it. And I have basically offered everything I can to like, Dad, just, all you got to do is get your hunter safety done, and then I'll like pay for everything and like guide you, and you just got to show up. Like I'll give you like the gun will be tuned in, like you just show up. I'll buy your hunting license, your tags, whatever. All you need to do is take this. I will take the class with you with the 10-year-olds. So you don't have to sit there and do it. The whole thing, right? And then finally, COVID happens, right? And if I'd say one good thing that happened from COVID is some of the stuff you can accomplish remote that you don't have to do in person now. And right. So instead of him needing to go do this thing with 10-year-olds, and which he obviously is probably never going to do. Okay, hey, you can just do it online. I'll do it with you. I'll sit on the computer. We'll do it, whatever. So I've spent at least 10 years trying to get my dad to get through hunter safety and go hunting, right? 10 years, okay? And so we just finally made that happen. Took me like a lot of work and 10 years.
All right.
Wow, the moment you mentioned it to Aaron, he did it like within a few hours after you telling him about it.
So that's so literally that's the kind of difference in people who are on this carnivore path and then people who are not, right? So it's like you just get shit done. And if something sounds good, you do it, right? And so, I described it to Aaron, like, hey, you get this done, you're good forever. It's good We could use it in any state. We go to Colorado and buy tags, whatever. But you get it done now, and you don't have to go to the class with the 10-year-olds, right? You just do it on your computer and you get it done. And he had it done within 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that really stands out to me on how a diet, and I think part of it is my dad does. I mean, he drinks way too much, and he doesn't eat well, and so he's having to he goes to bed at like probably 6:30 p.m. He's passed out. So
Yeah.
he just doesn't have. It's kind of sad, and I'm worried on how it's going to age him. So on how like from now, and I think about like my son who's 6. Like his grandpa's going to get really old really fast if he doesn't consider doing some things that could help kind of bring him back to that energy level and getting stuff done. And so it's just amazing what a diet can do in that regard. Bad diet, you're over here getting old fast, or good diet, you feel like you're reverse aging, right?
Exactly. That's the difference between an inflamed brain on a regular diet and a carnivore brain. And so you really captured it very well. And you're right, it's reverse aging. And I know you're only 36, but I've seen you over the years, and it's like, you already looked good. You're fit, you're good looking, you're athletic, you're a hunter, all this, but we definitely saw a difference, seeing you over the past couple months. You certainly have the carnivore glow, and you have the confidence. And I would love if you would share your story about the business lunch that I would like that if you could share that, but also if you could speak to your physical changes, because I know you've had some, even though it's not like you were overweight or unhealthy, but if you could share about that lunch and the physical benefits that you've experienced, that would be great.
Yeah, so I'm just about down 25 pounds. So which is pretty wild considering I was just under 200 pounds to start. So just from a percentage wise, to lose that much, not really trying to lose weight is just amazing. It's like my body is just removing the fat it doesn't need. Literally, that's what it feels like. Like any excess fat around my midsection or my neck or anything, it just doesn't need it. Doesn't need it. It's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and the crazy thing too is you never feel, it's like the only time in my life I haven't felt hungry, right? Which is really counterintuitive, because I could eat one meal a day and I'm not going to be hungry. I mean, it's just all those like cravings and like urges to consume food go away. So I think that's part of it. You actually consume less, but then also your body's metabolism on a fat-based system instead of carb-based is just way more efficient. Yeah. And your body's not telling itself you need to store extra fat because winter's coming. It's saying, no, we have an abundance of fat so we can get rid of the excess. It's summertime, right? It's like perpetual bodies in summertime.
That's right. And food freedom, right? And you're a busy, productive man already. So now you don't have to spend time worrying about what to eat or when to eat or how often. And, I remember your story about your business lunch when you placed your order. Can you recount that?
Yeah. So one of the big concerns with this diet was the social awkwardness of it. Being is that I have such a social life with my business connections and all these things that I do and all these meetings I go to, and I'm thinking, this is going to be really weird on how I have to like explain it every time I'm somewhere. Like, hey, everybody, I got this weird diet that I'm on. Don't freak out. Like, I'm sorry that you're a vegetarian, whatever. Like, it's so I have my biggest new client opportunity in the history of the business, right? And so this is for making rocket parts for SpaceX. And so super critical stuff that decides if the rocket flies or it doesn't. So we have their team here. We have the guy who's like the head guy in their business for product sourcing, and he's sitting there at the conference table with me. And so lunchtime comes up, and I say, hey, everybody, just a heads up, like I got this weird diet, and so don't freak out. But and they're like, oh gosh, what are you doing? And I was like, So I only eat meat. And they're like, so what are you gonna order? And I was like, I'm just gonna get a ribeye. And they go, okay, no vegetables, nothing. I go, I'll probably have them put some butter on it. And they go, and the head guy, his name's Brad, and Brad goes, I'm in. I'm doing that with you. and yeah, I mean, it's become more of like an interesting conversation starter than an awkward situation. Like everywhere I go, people want to talk about it now. They're like, whoa, like, what's going on? You're losing weight? Like, God, you got all this energy? Like, what are you doing? And it's like everywhere I go, I have to like talk about carnivore because people, I guess they notice that I've got more energy and I look different. And so I'm talking about it in a very positive way everywhere I go. I was up in Los Gatos for a lunch, and same kind of thing. It's like, that's all we talked about the whole time. And they're like trying to figure out like what the downsides could be, and they're like, well, what about this? I'm there with a lawyer and some other business owners, and they're like, oh, well, what, and next thing you know, by the end of it, they're like, oh man, like they're writing the book down. Like, we're going to check this thing out, because people, I think when they see a change like that, they go, well, maybe I should look at it.
Right. And you're not going to be getting that from adding, some Red Bulls, after lunch to carry you till the end of business, or,
5-hour energies
that
or whatever. Yeah.
Standard answers that our society has put on us to like make it through a day and get by. And, and you've made some, arguably ultra simple changes, which is kind of the fascinating part of all of this, is it's like, well, it comes down to being so simple. Yeah. And that's hard for a lot of people to wrap their mind around, right?
Yeah. And they're like, don't you crave stuff, this and that? Like, how long before you stopped craving bread? And I mean, honestly, I think it was like 3 days or something. It was like maybe for 3 days, I looked at some stuff my wife or my son were eating, and we're like, oh man, hey, they're having ice cream, like, and now it's like, it's at the point now where like, I actually really don't even think about food anymore. And I'm at the point where I might even back off another level, and I might be doing like 1 meal a day, because I've been like eating lunch on a timer. And sometimes I don't want to say it grosses me out, but if I put myself to like eat when I don't really have to, sometimes all that extra fat chewing is kind of, it almost is like really unappetizing, right, when you're not really needing it. And I found that if I like take it off the list and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to have a cup of bone broth for dinner instead of another steak. And I find that I really like that more. So I think I'm going to be doing more of that going forward. And just not doing it where like I'm thinking I have to eat. I'll just eat when I really need to.
That's one of the primary pointers for carnivores, is that you get attuned to your true hunger, and you start to know when you need more fat or when you need more protein. And then when you have that food aversion, you shouldn't eat. You don't need to be on a schedule anymore. And it sounds like you're already naturally gravitating toward OMAD, which is, I mean, you literally took to carnivore like a duck to a pond. I mean, I was shocked when Aaron was telling me how quickly you just like, you took to it, you loved it, and you just had such a fast success. It's not that way for everybody. So your story is very powerful and very impressive. And you look, I mean, we've seen you look visibly different. You're glowing. I mean, you were always really smart and really dynamic. And, I mean, you didn't have, really, people would look at you and think, oh, well, there would be nothing wrong, that there would be no reason for you to try this, which is why I was so
you wouldn't go on a diet where I wasn't really overweight or anything. I mean, it didn't. So it was everything but that reason, right? It was, how do I feel better? Not how I look, how do I feel? And then the other stuff, the extra energy and weight loss and everything just come with it.
And have your digestion issues that you were talking about earlier, what are those like now?
Cured.
Wow.
Like not half cured.
Yeah.
I mean like cured. And
Yeah.
that, I would say, that side of my health problems was probably my least favorite. Like I would have considered spending $1 million cash to do surgeries to not feel that way forever, kind of thing. Like that's how I felt. And yeah, to the point where like I'm worried about like going like camping and traveling. That's how bad, like just like totally just awful how my
Yeah.
system works. And I'm fixed for
Yeah.
20 years.
That's amazing.
Yep. So that I think is probably the biggest impact of it all, even more than, because the spine, I mean, I can kind of power through some of the kind of pain. I mean, it sucks. Yeah, then especially the neck stuff sucks. Back pain, yeah, I can kind of work through some of that.
But you've gotten some results there too, right?
Oh, that's all fixed too. Yeah, it's fixed. It's like it's gone. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, my knees feel good. I mean, everything. I mean, it's yeah, it's just totally. I can like turn my head around and like I mean, I can actually look over my shoulder, change lanes in a car. Like I mean, it's great. I can shoot shotguns without being crippled for a week afterwards now. I mean, I had to get into making my own shotgun ammunition because I couldn't buy ammunition that wouldn't hurt me.
Yeah.
Like I got completely into the science of making my own bullets because my neck is so fouled up that I could not do the hobbies I like without injuring myself. Like that's
Yeah.
how desperate I was like, to do something. And now I just don't even, not worried about it now. Like it's,
For most humans, I would say the sky is the limit. But for you, I feel like it's outer space. You were already so hardcore before, and now you're just completely unstoppable. So
yeah,
it's just
I
amazing.
mean,
Your story is so powerful.
yeah,
And what about exercise though? I also want to know, you said you were doing a lot of lifting and things before. What are you doing now for your fitness besides hunting and just being generally a busy man?
yeah. So I still do a lot of just the general like busy type projects that take muscles. So I will go just like really nuts on doing yard work and tree trimming, and I really like to take cars apart and put them back together, kind of thing. I mean, I like to spin wrenches and use tools and do that. It's amazing how much, like if you're on the right diet, just that type of stuff, you see your muscles perform better. But I'm on a simple workout regimen that's just 3 exercise groups. So I just do pull-ups, push-ups, and squats. And I saw a guy present on this who does personal training for Richard Branson and some other pretty famous individuals, and was one of the trainers for the Minnesota Vikings, a number of different things. And so I got invited to this special like exclusive thing in my CEO group that I'm in, and the guy came to like present to us privately, and he basically like told us like everything you've ever been told about exercise is wrong. It's all bullshit. Like all the stuff that you think you're doing to lose weight, it's just a hobby. And most of the people who do that kind of exercise actually put weight on. And, it's really focused on like cardio doesn't do really anything for your health. And it's more about how much muscle you have for these other health aspects, right? For removing fat and proper blood vessel function and all this other stuff. And a lot of studies that have now come out more recently about the importance of the muscle building versus cardiovascular exercise. So he said, like, yeah, he runs whatever 15 miles every morning. That's his hobby. That's not his exercise.
Yeah.
So
I
like that's
understand.
what he does because he likes it. It makes him happy. And his thing was with exercise, we also do it wrong where we go to the gym and we spend 2 hours in the gym doing all these sets of different exercises. He said, literally what you just wasted your day. Like he said, it has been proven scientifically, and I can't cite all the studies, he had all his sources on it, but it's been proven that if you do like 10 sets of 10 of an exercise, versus if you just did it one time to 22 reps and that was failure, that you will get stronger faster doing it the one time to 22 reps.
Right.
Because it's about how far you take your muscles to the failure point and then how much rest you give them, not like how many times you do it.
Yeah.
So like if you do like, I'm doing bench press and I can do 10 times, I take a break, I do 10 again. He goes, if you could have done 18 times, you wasted your effort to stop at 10.
Yeah.
So he said, do the exercise one time, do it to full momentary muscle failure, like you couldn't do another one with a gun to your head,
Yeah.
and then take 3 days off. And that's it.
Chris, is this the creator of the X3 bar? It sounds like his exact philosophy.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So,
Is his name John Jakish? Is that how you say it? I don't know how to say it.
no, but I can
Okay.
get it. I can send you his presentation.
Okay, that sounds great. I mean, it's kind of similar to what we've heard, and Aaron certainly has had those results. You see, he's just busy cleaning, polishing his cars, doing all these things. You know, he does his push-ups and everything, but it's like he's just ripped now from, and it's not like he's, you know, I mean, now you're running again, right? But I've just
Well,
watched his
that's also
body
more of
transform.
hobby on the side of hobby for me, just because I ran cross country and track and all of that. And it's
Makes you
my
feel
sort
good.
of my go-to clear your head kind of thing, more than it is to get any real physical benefits from it. I get more mental benefits than physical.
For sure.
Suggest.
That's what I do on my mountain bike. I'm not doing it to lose weight. I'm doing it because I want to just be out in the woods and the fresh air. And
well, it sounds like, I mean, your story is so compelling, especially at your age. And then people look at someone such as yourself, and from the outside, it's like, look at this guy. He's young, he's active, he's got all this stuff going on and whatever. But until you and I started talking about it, I had no idea. And we started talking like two old people, about like all the problems, it was like we were living life like we were in our 70s. And that's the thing, is that, and you and I have also discussed that, we know that curve shouldn't start going into a declined state until you're 75, right? But now our
maybe not even
society,
then.
maybe not even then. And that now our society, it's now this accepted sort of reality that, at 30 to 35, your waist is going to grow in size, and all of these things are going to start happening. And as well, like you were saying, all of the trauma that has started to come home to roost from earlier adventures and endeavors, then you just start hobbling around, and then you go, okay, this is what my life is going to be for the remainder.
And for me, I didn't like it being a fake reality, right? So I mean, from the outside is like, young, fit, happy, but that was just mental grit. I mean, that wasn't, I was miserable, like absolutely just miserable, and trying to think like, what am I going to do next? I mean, I had it on for my, one of the things for my CEO group, it's, and I think I've talked about this a little bit. It's an organization called Vistage. And what this is basically you get invited into one of these circles of local business owners, CEOs, executives, and you're in like a 15-person fraternity, call it. And you sign a bunch of crazy NDAs, and it's like, full like open kimono to like your personal life, business life. It's like the real deal, like deep dive into everybody's lives. And so going into this, you have to basically like be accountable to your group on like, what are you going to do this year? Like, what's your most important personal goal you need to do? Like all these things, business goals. And like, for me, it's been for a while, like I need to fix my health. Right. So like and I'm in like, well, what are you going to do about it? Like, and it's like, I don't know. Like I've seen the neurosurgeons, I'm doing this other stuff. And it's like, well, we got to figure out something. And I didn't have an answer until I found the diet. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I get to take that off my personal objectives list, and I get to pick something else that's more fun than fix my health, you know.
Right on.
So
That
it's
is
really cool.
that is absolutely wonderful. And obviously you have so much ambition and ability that now you won't have to spend. I was like that too. I just spent my entire life always just trying to correct my health. And it's like now you're free to live your life and do the things you're passionate about. I do want to ask you, you've mentioned a few things to us about how does your wife feel about this and your family?
Yeah, so they're not into it. They just really they're not into it. My wife just she can't wrap her head around it yet. But so what she has been doing, she's been making a conscious effort to eat a lot more meat. And so they're eating a lot more meat, and they're keeping the carbs down. So we're trying to move. And my son just ran into some issues actually missing school for digestive problems. The point that you had to like take him to the doctor, and they had to put him on laxatives and this and that. I'm like, carnivore, simple, super simple. Like it's not that complicated. So, and I think, I'm the broken record now. Like anytime, like my wife's like, oh, I'm really tired. I'm like, carnivore. So I have to be careful that I'm not just like too over the top on it. But yeah, so we're migrating my son's diet slowly, and taking away the vegetables that are more toxic than others. So like get him to where he's like just on like cucumbers. And the book I read, I really like Carnivore Code with all of the chemistry in it. And so he talks about the least toxic things being cucumbers, squash, and blueberries. I think are like the three. And so, hey, my son, if we can just do cucumbers and blueberries and a bunch of meat with it, then we're making progress. So I'm inching them along towards the righteous path.
That's fantastic. I wanted to ask you too about, Aaron mentioned you've shared it and you've got a couple other people starting Carnivore.
Yeah, sure do. So yeah, I have like my number one team member at the company who's really, really been like one of the most critical people in our growth over the years. And she's just, off the charts and what she can accomplish. And she was feeling like she wasn't keeping up as well in meetings after I got started on this thing. And I kind of that, like, I didn't expect that to get discussed that way, but she, we've known each other for a long time. And she was like, I'm gonna do the book, and I'm gonna look into this because she goes, I've got some extra weight I'd like to which she didn't, but everybody's got a different view, and some digestive issues, and she wanted better, just better mental speed and clarity. And so she's I think she's in her second week on it now, really excited about it. She dropped off in my office yesterday liver jerky, which is super cool. So, and I gotta say, it was really badass. I would recommend it. It's made by Epic. You know them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do, it's like a beef liver blend jerky that's just sea salt kind of thing, seasoned. So that was cool. So I gotta try some liver jerky. But yeah, so she's totally into it and gonna give it a go. My brother-in-law is 2 weeks into it. He's got a bunch of issues with his shoulder injuries from being a college water polo player. He's just trashed his shoulders from all the swimming and weightlifting and all this stuff. And so he's on it. I've got a couple of the old guys at my duck club looking at getting into it for getting just more kind of mental sharpness and some reverse aging type stuff. And yeah, so we'll see who else I can get into it.
And
And
I
what?
think,
Oh,
and
sorry.
that was the the other fascinating part to me because when we all, same old thing, when we talk about diet, it's always pretty much related to weight loss, and people do it for a little while and then it's like, yeah, I did that, but I want to kind of go back to my old like eating style. And but you've had all these different results in all these other areas of performance, right? And you were talking about sort of leaving everybody in the dust at the hunt club and they're just like, what's this guy doing? And that's a part that even in my conversations and Janice as well, that's been our experience. It's just like people knew you before and then they see you now and they're like, what are you doing? And it's such a remarkable, it's on all these different levels. It's your vocabulary. You have access to all these words that that suddenly they just start coming out of your mouth more and you sound a lot more intelligent when you speak. And,
yeah, it's just a general, just like, I don't know, you kind of feel like a wolf. You're just kind of, I rolled up to the duck club and, I set the record, the all-time record for the goose hunt, and we showed up like late, like a day late. And like the other guys were the real experts, they spent weeks scouting and putting out like hundreds of bird decoys and restricting where other people could go in their proximity and all this stuff. And so I like call them and I'm like, hey man, where's it okay for us to go? Oh, well, you got to stay over on like these 400 acres away from us. And it's like, oh, okay, right. And so we show up and those guys, they were so angry about how poorly they did. They went home already and we're like done. and we roll out in the afternoon. We just cruise out and like, well, we had like a bag of decoys we tossed out, like sit down and kick back. And we just broke all the rules, but we were zeroed in on our skills. And so, yeah, we dropped the hammer, we set the record. So it's like, yeah. And I think that rubbed some people wrong, but it felt fantastic because it was cool. It was just so cool.
Well, that's, I guess, that part about, and that's, some of our angle about this is like, well, you weren't really lacking any confidence or self-confidence or anything like that, but you kind of alluded to anxiety and worry and some of these things. Can you just share a little bit about like, well, because you just expressed that right now, it's like, well, you guys just sort of, you just knew there wasn't too much to fret about and we're here, we're doing this, and let's put our best effort forward and let's focus on the task at hand. But all the other
what can we do positive right now, right?
Yeah.
Like why worry about yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow? Yeah, we can do a lot of stuff to really prepare for retirement or worry about bad stuff that went bad, but at the end of the day is how well we're living right now is the most important. And I really like, it's a book, it's called The Power of Now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've read that one. Yep.
Eckhart Tolle, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And so, And so for me, that's something I kind of think about is like, why am I getting pissed off in traffic? Like, why am I doing, it's like, it's like, if you really make the best of everything, it's almost like good stuff just happens.
Well, I love that you mentioned that book because before Carnivore, I was vegetarian for about 10 years and I read all of those books, including that book. But my brain was so inflamed and I was so anxious and so depressed and so paranoid and obsessive and worried and perfectionistic. And I would be over analyzing everything. And so I could understand the concepts of the book, but I couldn't experience them. Yeah. And so recently it came up in my YouTube queue, the audio book, and I started listening to it again. And I was like, I'm living that now as a carnivore, just like you just expressed that. It's like, you are that. You are in the present and you are living fully and not worrying about the past and not worrying about the future. Nope. So my brain wasn't capable of that before. Right. And it is now. So you are the ultimate confident carnivore, Chris. You will be getting a shirt after you tell us your size. I have
large.
Okay. I have one final question for you regarding your black lab, your puppy.
Yeah.
will she be going carnivore? Because we have some carnivores on the Meat RX community that I'm a
Yeah.
part of, and they talk about all their dogs. They're thriving on carnivore. So
Yeah,
I'd
she
love
has
to.
a bunch of digestive issues, so I think I'm gonna give it a shot. So I really, yeah, I'm gonna look into doing that.
Excellent. I actually told them I wanted to be part of the meeting about the carnivore dog so that I could get some tips for you.
Yes, let me know. I will need some tips because yeah, she struggles bad with digestive
Oh.
issues. And yeah, it's always
Yeah.
been a problem. She had bladder infections for a long time, digestive issues. So yeah, anything that could help her out, she's number one. So
I will let you know.
a hunting dog becomes like the most important thing in the world. That's like, I mean, like, yeah, the effort I put into like making sure I just installed like a cooling fan built into her dog kennel that's in the truck. And like, I mean, like whatever that dog, make that dog happy. That's you know, when they swim across a lake with waves breaking over their head with a goose in their mouth for you. I mean, that dog is, I mean, they kill themselves working for you. Literally,
Yeah.
like they would kill themselves to take care of the job and finish it.
Yeah.
They're just amazing. They're so amazing.
Well, that's great. We both really appreciate you taking the time to share your story today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hopefully I answered all the questions okay, and I'm certainly certainly available to talk more another time. But yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you so much, Chris. This has been a real pleasure. And I've shared about you. Nobody knows you who you are, but I've shared about you so much in the carnivore community because you literally are. I mean, you did take to it like a duck to water to a pond. And I'm so impressed by you. So I just
Cool.
look forward to seeing your future accomplishments and
Thank you.
keep telling us the great stories. So
All right. Well, thank you so much. I gotta hop on a 2:00.
okay.
Yeah. Let's get your dad on it. That's going to be our next big story, is interviewing your dad once he's done it for a little while.
Right. That'll be a project. I like a good challenge. Hopefully it doesn't take me 10 years.
Yeah, and you know, we can convince him that he can still drink some whiskey and be on the diet, right?
You got it, man. That'll be key.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yep.
All right.
Chris.
Take good care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.